What's up, D learners? It's your girl, Lady D. Work is over for the day. So, as I told you guys before, my energy level in the morning versus my energy level in the afternoon is completely different. That's that fibromyalgia thing. I deal with it each and every day. But that is not our topic for today. Our topic for today is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So, I shared the definition with you earlier. I'm going to share it with you one more time. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is one of the most common childhood disorders and can continue through adolescence and adulthood. Symptoms include difficulty staying focused and paying attention, difficulty controlling behavior, and hyperactivity. So, what I want to do with you is go over some of the symptoms that you might want to keep an eye out on. Now, any child at any point can exhibit some of these symptoms. That's why it's important to use the Vanderbilt assessment. Teachers, please use the Vanderbilt for teachers, and parents, please use the Vanderbilt for parents. You can Google it and find the most recent version of the Vanderbilt online, and then have your pediatrician help you score it, or developmental pediatrician. You can also take it to a psychologist to have them score it as well. So, does not pay attention to details and makes careless mistakes. So, for example, something that will happen is maybe you'll tell your children to get the clothes out of the laundry, and they will get the clothes out of the laundry but leave the dryer open, and you're sitting there like, okay, I told you to get the clothes out the laundry, but in their mind, oh, that's all you told me to do. I want to go back to whatever else I was doing. Older kids might make mistakes on things like homework. Difficulty keeping attention to what needs to be done. So if my child is folding clothes and I come in the room to say something to my other child, he is like sitting there. The conversation had nothing to do with you. You were not part of that conversation, but he's still, so whatever's going on, he actually has to, since he's homeschooled, we let him face a blank wall. And in a classroom, this might be considered like as kind of abusive behavior in a classroom, because he has to face a corner. And the reason he has to face a corner, and actually he has a blackout curtain behind him so that nothing can distract him. He cannot have the windows open, nothing. And again, we talked about the fact that I choose not to medicate. So these are the extreme measures that we take in our household so that my son can be successful. But as teachers, you're going to have to figure out in the classroom what's going to be the best method in keeping this child focused, especially a child whose parents are not ready to medicate. If the child is medicated, there may be a different protocol. Does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. A lot of times when giving instructions, I have to give maybe one instruction, have my son come back for the next instruction. I'll say, do ... then come back. Then I give the next instruction, ... come back. Now, depending on the age of a child, a 2-year-old should be able to follow at least a simple one-step direction and possibly a 2-step related direction. For example, pick up your cup. Pick up your cup and put it on the table. Then the next step, pick up your cup and put it on the table, then go sit on the couch. So that's usually around 3 or 4 years old. At 11 years old, you shouldn't be telling your child or any child one step at a time. So the fact that my child with ADHD struggles with following simple one-step directions, or when there's more than one given to him at a time, or even at 3 and 4, they should be able to follow directions that don't have to do with each other. Put your coat away, then go upstairs and get your jacket. That didn't make sense. Put your coat away, then go upstairs and fold the clothes. Two things that don't have anything to do with each other. Children with ADHD sometimes struggle with that, not paying attention to when directly spoken to. The thing that's difficult is, like I said in the other videos, sometimes this can look like autism and sometimes this goes together. Has difficulty organizing tasks and activities. Messy, just messy. Book bag messy. At the end of the day, can't find their stuff, don't know where they put this, that, or the other. You know that homework went out your house, but it never made it to a teacher. You know that, for example, my kids have boxes. They only have one box, one place to keep all of the stuff. They're supposed to put the stuff in the box, take it out the box, put it on the table, and put it right back in the box that's sitting right next to the table. I promise you that box is always empty. Stuff is everywhere. Stuff is missing. Can't never find a pencil, no matter how many pencils I put in the box. All you gotta do, take it out the box, use it, put it back in the box. Unorganized, messy in tasks and activities. Avoids or does not want to start tasks that require ongoing mental effort. My kids, I will see them sometimes rather clean up, be doing stuff, putting stuff away, and you're like, why are you just walking around aimlessly when you're supposed to be focused? Because they know it's going to take mental effort and it's not a preferred activity. They will sit there and they will not necessarily get started on time. Lose things necessary for tasks or activities. We talked about this. Nobody ever knows where the pencils are. Nobody ever has an eraser. Is easily distracted by noises and other stimuli. I mentioned this already, having to keep at least my youngest son in isolation in order for him to effectively get work done. Is forgetful in daily tasks. You know, part of this is I have boys, but just constantly, we have a little mantra in my house. Hair means brush your hair. Teeth means brush your teeth. Deodorant means put deodorant on. And grease means moisturize your lips. So I will say hair, teeth, deodorant, grease. My son will come out the bathroom and I'm like, what did you forget? I mean, it's not that hard. Hair, teeth, deodorant, grease. Hair, teeth, deodorant, grease. But still, one of my children, he just comes out and he's, oh, I forgot to put deodorant on. Oh, I forgot to put grease on my lips. Even though that's it. I say it all the time, but is easily forgetful. Fidgets with hands or squirms in seat. I see it all the time. It drives me crazy when they sit behind me in the car, because they'll be moving and squirming and can't sit still and just can't be still, especially when we're sitting in traffic. Leave seat when remaining seated is expected. Oh my goodness. My children volunteer in the church nursery, partly because they love kids, but also because if they were in church, Lord Jesus, they would get up every 5 minutes just for something, for nothing. Either they're squirming in their seat or they're consistently getting up, having to go to the bathroom during church service. Runs or about and climbs too much when remaining seated is expected. So this happened a lot in preschool. This happened a lot when my middle son was 4, is constantly climbing, constantly zoom, 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 zoom. So that's the next one, is on the go or often acts like driven by a motor. Like you would think he was the Energizer Bunny. He was so hyper, just all over the place, jumping and moving and twisting and turning. And it was like, boy, you about to drive me crazy. I'm gonna need you to go over there. Has difficulty playing or being quiet in play activities. So this one we didn't really have an issue with my child, but I have seen the child that will just make noise just to be making noise. Even though they could be sitting there playing with something or concentrating, they're sitting there writing and they're just humming. They're just making noise with their pencil. They're just kicking the seat. They just can't be quiet, be still. So I have this issue and so do my kids. Talks too much. My husband says all the time that I'm always running my mouth. So I can't necessarily blame this on ADD, ADHD. It just could be genetic. But this is the child whose mouth just goes and goes and goes and doesn't stop. Blurts out answers before the question is completed. This happens in my house all the time. I just have to be like, you cannot necessarily do that in the classroom, but you can say, please let me finish. Please let me finish before giving me an answer. The reason is because the child with ADHD, their mind is going. It's going. By the time, it's like, hurry up. Say what you gotta say. So their mind is speeding while we're trying to get information out to them. Has difficulty waiting his or her turn. Yeah. Cuts in line, pushes people out the way sometimes, interrupts or intrudes on others' conversations and activities. I see this a lot with only children, so I cannot necessarily say that I only see this with children with ADHD. So interrupting and intruding is age appropriate, and at younger ages. As the children start to get older, they should understand that they should not just butt into somebody else's activity. Argues with adults. Again, this is hard because children and adults are not always going to get along or see eye to eye. So at any given time, any child, this can be age appropriate for the age they are, loses temper. So again, I'm not a perfect person. My husband's not a perfect person. When we were teenagers, we both had bad tempers. Again, neither one of us have an ADHD or ADD diagnosis. We're both pretty neurotypical. I was just a late reader, but I was very emotional when I was a teenager and a preteen, so I would lose my temper very easily. So I don't know that my children, when they were a little bit younger, and they would lose their temper and have these intense crying fits and tantrums. It's hard for me to say, oh, that was the ADHD. That could just be genetic. It could just be they had to have time to mature. The funny thing is, my kids are boxers and 2 of them play football. So I said, for them, boxing helped. I don't know if it was God, all that getting punched upside their head or what, but boxing has helped them. They are so much calmer now. None of my kids are medicated. I am not telling you to let your child box or play football. All I'm saying is that my child has a calm temper. All 3 of my boys are so much calmer ever since they started doing active things. So not that you need to start boxing or football, but you need to get them children in something that they can move their body, because their brain is moving, their body is moving, and it may not be a group sport. So not all kids with ADHD do well in group sports, like something like tennis where you're boom, 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 and you got to move all over by yourself. Might be something better for them because they're constantly moving, they're constantly in motion. Actively defies or refuses to go along with adults' rules or requests. So this is a little bit beyond just, oh, I just don't want to do it because you're the adult. This can be, sometimes it's something that would benefit the kid. Like, oh, let's go get ice cream. I don't want no ice cream. You don't want ice cream. You like ice cream any other time, but right now you just need to be oppositional defiant. So just like autism sometimes is comorbid with ADHD, sometimes anxiety disorder is comorbid with ADHD, and sometimes oppositional defiant disorder is comorbid with ADHD. And I have, in rare occasions, talked to a couple of people anecdotally. Again, that anecdotally means just in conversation with a regular person, not research, but who have had ADHD diagnoses when they were younger. As they got older, it actually was more of a mental health thing, like bipolar. So just kind of keeping an eye out, because diagnoses can change, diagnoses can be added, diagnoses can manifest themselves. Just like oppositional defiant disorder sometimes can look like that intermittent explosive personality disorder, just depending on the outbursts and the temper tantrums. But a lot of it at this age looks like ADHD. Please don't get scared, y'all. Please don't get scared. Please, I'm not trying to scare anybody. I just want you to be well informed so that you can kind of keep an eye out on the children that you serve, whether you homeschool your children, whether your children are in public school, private school, charter school, or you are the teacher. So just a couple more things that I want to share with you. Again, I'm not going to read the full Vanderbilt. This right now, I have the parent Vanderbilt, not the extended one, because I don't want to go too long. So the last couple things is angry or resentful, is spiteful, and wants to get even, bullies, threatens, or intimidates others, starts physical fights, lies to get out of trouble or avoid obligations, is truant or skips school without permission. I can give you an example of this. When my son was in kindergarten, he would find ways to get out of the kindergarten classroom. He did this even in preschool. He would do something in the classroom so that they would kick him out. Then they would call me to come get him a lot when he was in kindergarten and say that he was not having a good day. So he would do what he needed to do to get out of school. So even though he was not old enough to cut school, he knew how to get out of the class. Is physically cruel to people, has stolen things that have a value. Yes, definitely at one point would see him take things that were not his. And it's hard when especially when you're a Christian, you're trying to have that moral conversation with your child, and they're not necessarily comprehending it because of the social situation that they're in, having ADHD. Deliberately destroys others' property, has used a weapon that can cause serious harm, bat, knife, brick, or gun. So my son did not do this. However, he did throw chairs for a little while at teachers, which is a very big offense. And that used to I was really hurt by that. I used to cry about it all the time because I'm an educator. So my son is at school throwing chairs at teachers. And then they would ask me things like, so what do you do when he throws chairs at you at home? Oh, heck no. He is not crazy. He ain't gonna be up in my house throwing no daggone chairs. That's just not even something that happens. So it's hard because you have people looking at you like, well, what do you do at home when he takes blocks and hits you with them? The thing is, kids with ADHD can hold it together usually in one area, but then they let it all out in another. All right, it's physically cruel to animals. My son did throw a puppy up against the house once. Has deliberately set fires to cause damage, has broken into someone else's home, business, or car. These are just things, again, I'm still reading off of the list. Has run away from home overnight, has forced someone into sexual activity, is fearful, anxious, or worried, is afraid to try new things, for fear of making mistakes, feels worthless or inferior. Some of these are starting to get into that anxiety piece of things. Feels lonely, unwanted, or unloved. Complains about no one loves him or her. Is sad or unhappy and depressed. Is self-conscious and easily embarrassed. So then you get to rate school performance, reading, writing, math, relationships with peers, relationships with siblings, and then participation in group organizations. The pediatrician, psychologist, whoever will then score this for you, and then based on the scores, let you know if your child is leaning toward attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And then there's, like I said, some other things that could run comorbid, like oppositional defiant disorder, anxiety. Now, there are separate tests for autism. I do not have anything right now to talk to you about autism. I have to print some stuff off that I'm familiar with using, so I will do that in a separate video. Just some of the things that are more autism-y than ADHD, but this is just difficult. It is a difficult thing to go through, and a lot of parents right now are very emotional about autism, but ADHD is just as hard for us as parents. So those are the symptoms of ADHD. Just go ahead and do your research, and remember, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. Until next time.